Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome, Dia. How are you today?
Nice to see you. Good.
Nice to see you too. So I'd like to ask everyone to join us on Partnerships for Profit as we welcome Dia Bondi, communications catalyst, keynote speaker, and creator of Ask Like an Auctioneer. From coaching Olympic bid teams and high growth founders to helping ambitious women ask for more and get it, Dia is reshaping how we lead, ask, and grow. In this episode, we'll talk about high-stakes communication, how to turn hesitation into action, and why asking isn't just a skill, it's a success strategy. So, Dia, what happened at auctioneering school that made you say, this changes everything?
It didn't actually happen at auctioneering school. It happened about 30 auctions into what I call in my 40s, I called my impact hobby. So I've been a leadership communications coach for over 2 decades, working with VC-backed founders and executives internally to help them, speak powerfully so that they can secure resources and decisions, whether they're fundraising or securing budget or, building out a new team or developing partnership agreements. And I went to auctioneering school in my 40s during a sabbatical just for fun. Mm-hmm. And when I got back to the Bay Area, I thought, well, what am I doing with this? And the answer was, well, I'm going to do this as an impact hobby for fundraising events for women-led nonprofits and nonprofits benefiting women and girls. And about 30 auctions into it, I realized that what I was learning in front of the room on this just sort of harebrained idea of picking up the mic and raising money for causes I cared about was really instructive in how we can think about designing a strategic ask and making it in a way that helps us secure more of what we need to reach our goals faster. So it was just, 30 auctions into it. I was like, wait, it just started to hit me that what I was learning was super useful.
Absolutely. And I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit on impact hobby. Well, I haven't heard this phrase before. What does that mean to you, and how did that come about?
Yeah, I think it's mine. I haven't heard anybody else say that. And when I say it, folks do get like, wait, that's interesting. So I think about, hobbies could be like knitting, but an impact hobby might be, knitting specifically for children in the NICU because you want to support families, Yeah. I think of it as like, it's not just a hobby that is generative or relaxing or additive in our own life, but has a positive impact on something you actually care about. So for me, when I thought about, fundraising auctioneering, I was like, well, why am I doing this? It's not just like a regular hobby. It sits in its own little special shelf in the portfolio of my life, which is to say, no, I won't do it for a private school. No, I'm not interested in doing it for, for maybe academic institutions that don't align with one place where I really want to have impact, which is elevating and accelerating women entrepreneurs, women leaders, and women and girls wherever I can.
Mm-hmm. That's very inspiring. And I love that I have a new thing that I can talk to my friends about our impact hobbies. That's brilliant. Yeah. So you've highlighted the importance of being, bold and proactive in seeking opportunities. It's always inspiring to hear about individuals who have successfully put this into practice. Can you share a story of a woman who made a bold ask and got away with more than she imagined?
Sure. Well, I had one actually last week. So for folks listening, I know in the setup, you said that I'm the creator of Ask Like an Auctioneer, which is true. It's a workshop and a talk. And it was a workshop and a talk for 4 years before it turned into what it is today, which is a workshop, a talk, and a book. So folks can find the book at asklikeanauctioneer.com. It's a very quick read, and you're going to hear lots of stories, example stories of somebody making an ask that surprised them on the answer that they got. But even last week, I was in New York speaking at a wealth summit, and a woman who had been in my workshop just the year before. She was an entrepreneur from Canada. She sat in one of my Ask Like an Auctioneer workshops at a entrepreneur event in San Francisco, and I hadn't really heard from her or spoken to her since. It's like we teach these ideas and then we walk away and we hope it has an impact, right? But she approached me at this Wealth Catalyst summit that I was in New York, and she said, "Hey, Dia, my name is," and she reminded me, I'm going to do my best to anonymize. I try to be discreet with my stories.
Of course.
All the stories in the book are real, but they're renamed folks so that we can keep their privacy. And she said, "Hey, I was in that workshop that you gave in San Francisco last year." And I was like, "Oh yes, I remember you. She said, "You can't believe what happened that very night at the end of your workshop. I went to an event in and around Silicon Valley, and we were going around the room introducing ourselves to people. And I told a little bit about my founder story, because that was one thing we practiced in that workshop, helping people understand who you are so that they can identify you as a potential either partner or investment opportunity or somebody that lives in your zone, right?" She's like, "I introduced myself, and then I just did what you said, and I asked the room like an auctioneer. And that night, without me expecting it at all, a woman came and tapped me on the shoulder and wrote me a check."
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
I said, "What?" Yeah. And actually, last week, this woman also won a Webby Award. So you can probably find her on the internet. Yeah. So not the woman who wrote the check, the woman who received the check. So, it's like the big thing for me is sometimes we're making asks that are direct to a person across the table or across the phone or on the other side of your email. Sometimes you can do a better job of helping an entire room understand what you're doing, where you're going, the impact you're going to have, and then craft an ask that helps vet out of the 100 people in this room. Am I telling the setup story and making an ask that is compelling enough that it has a better chance of 1 or 2 or 3 people in the room recognizing that you are their people?
Wow. My brain is going in a million different directions right now. I got to read this book. So if you could sum up for me real quick, what does ask like an
what does it mean to ask like an auctioneer?
What does it mean to ask like an auctioneer? Like, and what does it mean? I mean, as a theater teacher, I know when I'm guiding like 60 kids in one room to make a show happen, standing up and being like, "All right, whose parents have a truck? I need to move something this afternoon." Those kind of big things that I can get to a lot of people at once. And that sort of thing. I understand that. But what does ask like an auctioneer mean?
So asking like an auctioneer does not mean speaking fast or necessarily being in a competitive bidding situation, which are two things that you think of when you think of auctioneering. People say, "Oh, ask like an auctioneer. Are you going to teach me how to speak fast?" No, the point is not for you to develop a chant. I'm not like, it's not helpful in a business context to say in the room, $100 bidder now two. Would you give me 2? I'm a $200 bidder now 3. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
What it means to ask like an auctioneer is this. In the 20 years I've been working in leadership communications coaching, I'm helping leaders develop a compelling story so that they can get a call to action at the end. This is common business language, which is essentially an ask. And for us to write a compelling story, I have to know what they're asking for: headcount, budget, investment, engagement, etc. Participation in something, for some folks to join, etc. And when I ask what they're asking for, I usually get an answer to that. But then I have to ask the next question, which is like, well, how much of it? Because there's a big difference between asking somebody for $100 and $100 million. There's a big difference, between saying I want to build out a team of 3 and saying I need a budget to build out a team of 300. The amount changes the story. So when I ask that question, it's very common that I'm met with another question, which is, well, what do you think I can get? And for years I was like, excellent. What do we think we can get? There's no way I'll get budget for 300 people, so I'm going to ask for 30. There's no way that I'm going to get $100 million, so I'm going to ask for 25. More realistic, and you can think all the way down to the individual scale. I promise this. You said very briefly. This is not going to be brief.
No, that's okay. Have at it.
So we basically design, and you think about something simple, somebody early in their career or mid-career who's like, I want to ask for a 20% raise, but they'll never go for it. So I'm going to ask for 10 or 12%. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then we go make that ask for what we thought we could get, and we get a yes, and we feel amazing.
Yeah.
20 auctions, 30 auctions into my impact hobby, I realized that when we design an ask based on what we think we can get, when we design an ask based on getting a yes, we leave money and opportunity on the table. Because as auctioneers, we don't do that. We can't sell anything actually until we get a no.
Wow.
Right? So I'm selling a piece of art, and the bidding is at $7,000. I'm going to ask the room for $8,000. I get a bid at $8,000. I'm going to say, great, who's in at $9,000? I get a bid at $9,000, and I say, okay, I'm looking for $10,000 bid. Somebody's got it at $9,000. Somebody said yes to $9,000, and I say, well, who's in at $10,000? The person that was in at $8, that was competing for the person in at $9, might say no. The moment I get no, not 10,000, I know that I've maximized the potential of that ask, and I sell it for 9,000. Now, if I had said yes, if I had sold it to the first yes in the room, which is essentially what we do in regular life, I would have left thousands of dollars on the table.
Absolutely.
So what it means to ask like an auctioneer is to actively go for the no. Now, why don't we do that? We don't do that because no freaks us out. And everything, every increment between a guaranteed yes and that terrible, scary word no lives in a place I like to call the zone of freaking out, or the ZOFA.
That's honest. I love anything that's honest. That's good. Yeah.
I mean, it's that feeling like, well, we all know that feeling where we're like, oh my God, I could never ask for that. Will they think I'm crazy? Am I going to look, is it going to damage my credibility? There's no way. They'll laugh me out of the room. All the garbage, the head trash that we give ourselves that comes with the idea that we're making an ask that threatens a no. So what it means to ask like an auctioneer is to actively go, what do I think I can get? What do I think is going to get me a no? And I'm going to go for that, and then negotiate down, and then land. More often than not, you're going to land at a number or an amount bigger than you would have secured had you designed to get a yes.
Wow. I mean, that lands, I mean, I need to hear this in so many ways in my own life right now, but I'm really excited for our listeners too. This is some juicy stuff. I mean, and I guess, do you have like techniques to get comfortable in that zone of freaking out?
Yeah, no, I don't. My meaning the objective is not to get comfortable in your zone of freaking out, because the zone of freaking out grows with you. Look, everybody listening right now, and maybe you also, Megan, have one. Like, you look back and you think about the asks that you made earlier in your career that were like totally like, I thought I was out of my mind. And now you look at them and you're like, whatever, table stakes. Why? Because as we mature and grow, as our businesses grow, our portfolio of customers grow, our status grows, our reputation grows, our zone of freaking out grows with us. We'll always have one. Do you know what I mean? It just gets bigger. So the first tip is stop trying to expect the zone of freaking out to go away. It will not.
Okay.
What we have to do instead is go, all right, how do I take action in my zone of freaking out? How do I have my zone of freaking out not block me, but instead tell me, oh, I'm making an ask that's bigger than I assume is possible? That tells me, you reread that not as like I'm breaking something, and you instead reread it as, oh, I'm actually doing something courageous right here. I'm actually not letting my assumptions about what's possible keep my asks small and reasonable. I'm actually challenging my assumptions about what's possible. I'm actually standing up for myself in this moment. So reframing the zone of freaking out as not a zone that is dangerous, but a zone that is an exploration. It is one way we can act. We can push send even when we're freaking out. We can say the number even when we're freaking out inside.
Wow.
And then I have nine other strategies to help folks go ahead and make the ask, even when it's scary. And if you want to share, and if you want to talk about those, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, I do have this question. So a lot of discussion is happening around like asking, that it centers on salary and resources. However, equally important are the non-monetary aspects, perhaps asking for a new opportunity, mentorship,
100%.
a change in responsibility. How does your framework or apply to these kinds of powerful non-financial requests?
I mean, look, the first time I had the opportunity to speak to a room of people, I'm in and around Silicon Valley, so it's mostly tech audiences. I was talking to the head of engineering of a streaming platform you and everybody else uses in the world. Well, not every geography, but many of them. And I was like, look, I don't know that you want me to teach everyone at your internal tech summit how to ask for more and get it, because you're going to be, like, you don't want everybody here asking for a raise tomorrow. And she was like, no, if you're not recognizing that these concepts can be applied to every single ask, you're missing it. Every single ask we have to make as we grow our businesses and careers, you're missing it. And she's not wrong. So I think there's four territories of the kinds of strategic asks we can make. One is money. Absolutely. But for folks listening, that's not just about getting more money. It could also be about discounts. It could be about like that. Two, and that's investment. That's so many things. People who are running nonprofits asking for contributions, la, la, la. The second one I think of is the kinds of asks that grow your influence in a market. So it might be about making asks that put you in front of the right people to help you find those partnerships, those strategic partnerships, those opportunities to do something new with a group of people or an organization or a brand that are meaningful to the goals that you have. Maybe it's about asks that give you access to networks you do not right now have access to. So moments that grow your influence. And then third are the kinds of asks that grow your authority in a space. And this is about the power to actually write the check. This is about promotion, but it can also be about decision-making power in a without changing title. It can be about decision-making power in a cross collaboration, either with a partner or in an internal team. And then the fourth one I think of is the asks that bring more balance into your work life or business. And when I say balance, I don't mean work-life balance. I mean bringing into balance the work you're doing and the work you actually want to do. I mean, for those of you listening right now who have a book of clients who you wish would go away, you might be able to make more asks of the kinds of clients you actually want to move your business to, and you can ask your other clients to say goodbye. That brings more into balance, like the work you want to be doing with whom you want to be doing it, and the work you're actually doing every day. So I think what's important to recognize is that the asks that you make aren't just about dollars and cents. They're about levels of engagement, partnerships, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, like the real relationships being the basis of, feeling more comfortable and being able to ask for all sorts of things, I guess.
Absolutely. So, again, I will double click on the objective is not to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
The objective is to go ahead and make the ask, even though you feel freaked out, because it's strategically right and aligned to the goals you have in your career or business. I hate to challenge you again on that, but like it's easy for us to constantly center our comfort, and it's like no. No,
I mean that's brilliant.
It's like, are you craving comfort or are you craving outcomes? Sometimes they can't coexist. Excuse me.
Absolutely. Yeah. We grow in those moments of failure. We grow in those moments of feeling uncomfortable. That's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah.
So, okie dokie. Oh my. So, what happens when your voice doesn't match your message? It was brought up in my notes. What's that?
You erode trust. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Effective communication is multifaceted. It's not just what you say, but it's how you say it. The delivery, the tone, the nonverbal cues all play a significant role in how a message is received. So, what have you observed about the impact of alignment or misalignment between one's vocal delivery and their core message?
So I'll say that when I talk about finding your voice, I'm not a vocal specialist. I'm not a singer. I don't come from theater. What I talk about is discovering and understanding what your true leadership platform is about and the content of your voice that you can say yes to and bet on and have conviction about. That's
Hmm.
where I live. And so I separate skills and leadership voice development. There's that really interesting quote from, I think it's Miles Davis, who says, "It takes a lifetime to sound like yourself." Like, that's not about skills. You can be an excellent trumpet player and understand how the device works and be able to do 1,000 scales perfectly and be able to follow exactly the notes, but still not sound like you.
Yeah.
So what I'm very interested in is who are the core philosophy that underpins all the work I do is that you are your most powerful when you speak from who you truly are. So my job with my clients is to go like, let's not worry about where you put your hands and whether you have vocal fry or not. And, how you be more quote unquote confident on stage or have presence, whatever that means. And instead, focus on understanding who are you, what is your unique point of view in the world, what is the voice that you bring to the table that you can then lend to your venture that you're
Hmm.
building or lend to the strategic initiatives you're leading in your organization. So I think when we uncouple those two things and do the first things first, which is what are you all about, much
Hmm.
of the delivery component takes care of itself. Because when
And,
you bring self-belief and you bring conviction to the narratives that you're delivering in front of audiences big and small, you know exactly where to put your hand. You
mhm.
know
Oh
your hands. You know exactly how to where to put the right emphasis on the right syllable, so to speak. Many times that shakiness in a voice goes away because you're actually
Yeah.
speaking in a way that's aligned to who you truly are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I found that after many, many years as a theater teacher as well.
Sure.
One of a book that I read a long time ago, and I had friends that went to the school, the Kirsten Linklater's "Freeing the Natural Voice." It was a voice class, but it wasn't a voice class. It was about like finding your own primordial, spark, your own, and everybody's is going to sound completely different, and that's the beauty.
Yeah, and the way that I work is actually content first and then
Mhm.
resonance. So
Yeah.
we look for the idea, and then when somebody hits an idea that they can truly own and get
Hmm.
behind, then they notice like, oh my gosh, I just said that, and here's how resonant it was for me. I can
Oh
tell
yeah.
they light up in ways, or they get very serious in ways that I can be like, what's going on? I was like, that's a sign. I'm always looking for those signs that the content of what you're sharing in this moment
Hmm.
is so resonant and true for you that it's undeniable to us when you say it.
Absolutely.
And I live in the world of I live in the world where like you actually have to be able to tell a compelling strategic story if you want somebody to write you a check. It's not about
Mhm.
performance and polish. It's about understanding your actual the business strategy, and then why you as a leader, like why you. Yeah.
Mhm. And truly understanding that for yourself first. Um,
Totally.
what's the biggest mistake people make when making a big ask?
I think it's really aligned to what we were just talking about, which is they
Yeah.
go for what they think they can get.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
this is and look, not every moment is an ask like an auctioneer moment. The question is,
Mhm.
w- notice which ones require like, oh, this one I'm not going to pull punches. This one I'm actually going to challenge my own assumptions, because if I land the bigger deal, it's going to be the kind of ask that can change everything.
Absolutely. Um,
I can give you
so,
one more, actually. Can I give
oh
you
yeah.
one more? There's
Yeah.
one more, which is that we only ask for another big mistake is that we only ask for what's on the menu.
Yeah. or what we can imagine. And a lot of times what's out there is so much bigger than what we can imagine.
100%. I had a client, and you'll read about her in the book, somebody in my network who we worked together to design a strategic ask for a VP role that she was coming into at a large tech company. And yes, we talked about salary and scope and what's in and what's out. Does she want to do growth marketing or not? You know, where she was, what kind of commitment to being in the office, all time off, all the technicalities. And we figured out that, like, wait, you're cross-border. Could we make an ask that changes the currency you get paid in? And does that actually create material upside for you?
Interesting.
And the answer was yes. So when we think about designing a strategic ask in a role, it's very often like you said, it's like total comp, vacation benefits. But we don't think about, like, what currency am I getting paid in?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
off the menu asking.
Mm-hmm. Off the menu asking. I love that. That's definitely, I wrote that down for sure. So specifically, and you kept saying, like, we, and I'm sure that a lot of what we're talking about is across the board. I mean, this is true for everybody, but why do you think so many women hold back from asking for what they want? Like, women specifically?
Well, I think it was couple things. That's a perception. I don't know that it's actually true. I think it was the 2019 Women in the Workplace study. Everyone's going to need to look it up because it might not have been 2019. Found that in the workplace, in terms of raises and promotions, women ask as often and as much as men do. They just don't get.
Okay.
So I just want to challenge, sometimes I want to challenge this sort of, like, narrative that, like, women need to do better, because the point is that, like, a lot of women ask for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And
they're operating in a system that doesn't want to receive those requests, because centering a woman's ambition is antithetical to our gender expectations. Okay. So there's that. However, I do hear a lot in my workshops and talks, women surface the concern that if they go big with an ask, they'll be perceived in a way that is unhelpful to their careers and to their, okay. Now, that is highly contextual, okay? Because when you're in you're in a workplace politics situation, there's power dynamics at play that are unique to the workplace scenario. In entrepreneurship, differently, power dynamics. And we recognize that fewer women have been invested, especially since the pandemic. It used to be, folks need to not quote me on this exactly, but it used to be 4% of women entrepreneurs are funded by VC. And now it's backslid to like 2.5. It's not good. Numbers are not good. So some of the concerns that women bring up to me are, if I ask too much, will I be perceived as fill in the blank, greedy, et cetera, overly ambitious, whatever. And that notion that, like, if I put an ask that's really big in the center, that means I'm actually preferencing what I need over the needs of maybe other people in the group. And that's not, that's off brand for women, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, if we're not helping, what are we doing in a room,
Exactly. So it takes some ways to buttress that is to recognize a couple things. One is that if you can explain it, you can ask for it. Because sometimes we can get, like, I hear women say, like, I want to ask for fill in the blank. It's something huge. And they go, how do I know I'm not crazy and then it's going to backfire? I'm like, well, I can't promise that, but let's just do a little test. If you can explain it, you could probably ask for it. So that's one. Know how to be able to explain it. 2, find people in your group that can lend their champion and credibility voice to you. Meaning, in the workplace, who are the 3 or 4 or 5 people that are aware of and can back up the back channeling that happens after you make an ask? right? So you might make an ask for a promotion. Who are the 3 or 4 or 5 people who you know will positively gossip about you in back channels after you make the ask to lend credibility to you and the ask you just made? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's two asks there. Hey, the ask that I'm actually making, and asking those people who are part of your bench of supporters to back you up if there is any backlash and or, gossip on the back end of the ask that you made. Do you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the third thing is to find the offer inside of the ask. It can be a big unlock for women to go, all right, I'm going to ask for this. I'm going to make this huge ask. If I can identify what the offer is really clearly inside of the ask, I'm more easily can make it with a full chested request, because I understand how the ask I'm making advances the agenda of the person or organization I'm making the ask of. Now we're both helping and getting at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So, what happens when your voice doesn't match your message?
I think is what I tipped my hat to earlier, that like you erode trust and credibility.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be making a request and backing up like a donkey at the very same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything has to be in alignment there. And finally, what's the first baby step you would suggest that people take today to stop leaving opportunity on the table?
I want you to walk around this week, and I want you to test low stake asks that you think are ridiculous. You're going to ask for an upgrade at the next hotel that you walk into. You're going to ask for the larger size coffee for no extra cost. You're going to ask for something custom from the kitchen. You're going to literally order off the menu and start sampling with what it feels like of making requests of the world that aren't the obvious choice, and just see that you don't die.
No, yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, this reminds me so much. My mom was really big at like asking everybody for everything always. And I was this kid that was always so, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's asking, for, it would be something random like, oh, at the grocery store trying to make a deal. And I'm like,
Where's the grocery store, Mom? Come on. Yeah. It's not the flea market.
Mom,
yeah.
Just go. Like, what if my friends are watching or something like that?
Yeah.
And so, I love too that like right after Mother's Day, I have a little more appreciation of my mom and her asking big growing up.
Yeah, that's great. Look, that's a very like personal sort of take. And I recognize there might be people listening who are like, yeah, that's fine. But I'm fundraising this year, or I need to land my first $5 million brand partnership, or, I'm going into an acquisition. Like, I don't know what it is for folks who are, asking for a bigger cup of coffee doesn't have, like, that's not the practice that they need. I would invite them to use this following framework to start building a case for the asks that you might be making. And I like this one. I call it the mirror effect. And it goes like this. I see you, you see me, and because of that, fill in the blank for your ask. So you could use this tomorrow. I see you means you open the conversation saying, hey man, hey lady, I see you. I know what you're up to. I see that your brand has grown, 40% in this last year. I understand that you're penetrating these 3 new markets and that you want to be seen as, the go-to brand for fill in the blank. Okay. I see what you're doing, that you all are unafraid of being first on the scene, and that you're not the late adopters, you're the early adopters of technologies that enable that for you. I see that.
Yeah.
You see me, which is to say, here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I care about in that world. Well, we don't prioritize building our own brand. We're deeply passionate about enabling other brands to skyrocket and become the first in their category. Do you see what I'm doing? So I see you, and then let me help you see me a little bit. And then once you finish that narrative, you're basically surfacing the intersection of who they are and who you are. And then you can say, and because of that, we'd like to run a pilot project with you as our first opportunity to partner on a particular strategy. and to apply what you're doing and what we're doing in a way that helps us both be successful. Do you hear that? I see you, you see me, and because of that, here's my ask: pilot project, first partnership, contract, merger and acquisition, opportunity to talk to your board. Like, I don't know what the ask is, but that is a very useful framework that people can use tomorrow. That I've used very successfully with founders who are having conversations with their early investors about secondary stock, like share purchase deals, and in M&A conversations.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. I mean, Dia, for being with us today. I have so many notes, and I think there's so much that people can walk away using right away. I can't wait to dive into the book and to learn how to craft my ask.
Sure.
That sounds really juicy.
Right.
Again,
people can find, I just want to jump in and say that people can find resources for all of this and a framework to design a crafting and ask themselves, actually, if they go to diabondi.com/PFP. That is a custom landing page that we've created for your listeners. So folks, go to diabondi.com/PFP, and you can find a framework to do exactly what you're pointing to. How do I put together a strategic and well-crafted ask? You can find that download there.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you today, Dia.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.